We are on! Hooray!
We are. Yes, we are.
We've gone silent again, even though we've been talking for half an hour.
Well, we're all talked out now.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
we've said everything we need to say.
So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
We really should start.
This is going to be the easiest editing job I've ever had.
Excellent. All right. Welcome, everyone, to We're Not Helpful, a podcast about books, recommendations, our thoughts and opinions. I am Eloise, and joining me, as always, is Julian and Brayton. Hello.
Hello. I want to start with a question for both of you.
Oh, I love a question.
I've been thinking.
My whole plan's gone to questions.
No questions. Too many questions.
No, I sent you all a video this morning, if you remember, about the guy from the Texas school system where the teacher asked them to write a haiku.
Oh, yeah.
And ended up it was a random TikTok I saw.
Oh my god.
Where the teacher said, okay, if anyone hasn't seen this guy said, I went to the Texas school system and it was I think he said it was a pretty good school in Texas, not the best, but okay. And the teacher said, asked them all to write a haiku in senior English. And someone asked, what is a haiku? And she said, it's when you take a word and write it down the left side of the page, and then on each letter you write a sentence about it.
Oh my god.
Now, that is an acrostic.
It is an acrostic poem and has
Maybe
no similarities in any way to a haiku.
No.
Maybe the teacher that didn't have their morning coffee, perhaps.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, it's so sad.
It was very
poor
sad.
America.
But very funny too.
Full of really, really not very well-read people.
We can't say that for all of America.
Well, they keep banning books, so there's nothing left to read.
Yeah, it's your own fault.
But that statement got me thinking, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I want to put to both of you that an acrostic poem is the least romantic type of poem you could write to give to a lover.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Like, imagine you're dating, you've just started dating someone and you go on like second, third date and like, I've written you a poem, and they give you a nice card and you open it up and it's an acrostic poem with like your name and there's like a little sentence next to each of it. Like, is that, like, would you consider that romantic?
No, that would be the cringiest thing in the world.
If you're 8,
what are you,
maybe?
12? Yeah, it's cute if you're 10 and it's like the first boyfriend girlfriend you've ever had.
Yeah, or if your kids gave you one for Mother's Day, you'd be like, oh, that is so sweet.
I would love it.
Look, I forget the name of them, but there's the poems that you write in the shape of whatever it is you're writing about. And I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but I feel like that's up there, especially if it's a very articulate or specific thing that you're actually, like, if you're talking about a woman and you're trying to put it in the shape of and she's reading, well, how the fuck do I even read this thing? That's probably not very romantic either, whereas acrostic is simple at least.
If you're 27 and you're giving your lover an acrostic poem for Valentine's Day,
all right, okay, so
deserves
Eloise,
to be dumped.
what? Hear me out here. What's better? What's better? An acrostic poem or a let's fuck love on Valentine's Day? Particularly if it's a first date.
Oh no.
Who's writing a poem for someone on the first date?
Stalkers?
Someone who's never had a girlfriend before.
Sad people, virgins,
someone who's trying
someone
really
who thinks
hard.
they're finally out of the friend zone. There are people we've got to think of here. I suppose at least the second example, the let's fuck love, at least you know where you stand then and there with that person.
If it was written really nicely on a folded piece of paper and like maybe sealed with like wax seal or something and slipped with a bit of a wink, maybe you might get me with that.
It's about the attitude they give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could it be about the Eloise, everlasting beauty, luscious
go on
boobs? I don't know.
No. No.
So there is
Just
nothing they could write
wait
in
a
an
second.
acrostic poem.
Hello? Oh, you've had an accident. I'll be right there. I'm miming holding my phone for everyone not watching on YouTube. Oh no, I'm sorry. I have to take this phone call.
I
Hello.
can I can just imagine you reacting like everlasting beauty. Oh, okay, luscious boobs. Oh,
And for those of you who aren't aware, I am as flat as a ironing board. So no. What are we talking
So,
about? Oh my
so there.
God.
To summarize, there is nothing anyone could write in an acrostic poem that would make you more fond of them.
I think if someone did it as a joke and you're already in an established
Mm,
relationship, like it has to be a cute thing that is very funny. If you're pulling out an acrostic poem like on let's say on The Bachelor or The
yeah.
Bachelorette, like you know how they have to go up and meet the person for the first time
Mm.
and you're pulling out an acrostic poem, that person is not getting a rose.
look,
Like
give
they've
it given
snapped
the
that rose in half. You are out the door.
given the average intelligence of the people on The Bachelor, I'm prepared to accept an acrostic poem as a winner because that at least shows some level of literacy.
Okay,
See,
fair.
even if we're talking about a haiku, that takes effort.
Haiku can be
Yes.
beautiful
Look,
if you do it properly.
Yes,
I mean
that.
that's the
Yeah.
whole point of haikus. Like it's a Japanese cultural thing, obviously, and they're
Mm.
well into all of that kind of beauty and rich like poetry. I think if you were to write a haiku for someone on a first date, and it has to be good, like it has to be good. Don't put boobs in it.
Yeah. What's even the point?
Yeah.
How about this? What's more impressive? A well-written haiku or a properly written sonnet? Now, a sonnet
Oh.
has to,
Ooh.
for those of you listening, a sonnet does have very specific rules.
Mm-hmm.
14 lines, 9 syllables, iambic pentameter for each line.
Yes.
So which would you think? Which one is the fastest
Oh,
way to your boobs, Eloise?
Jesus Christ. I think I might have to go with a sonnet. I love a
Mm.
good
Yeah.
sonnet.
No question.
I think anyone can write a haiku, but to actually structure a perfect sonnet,
Okay. Okay.
that's
Mm.
Okay.
talent.
Let's take it to a next level.
Hmm.
A badly written sonnet
Okay.
or an acrostic poem.
The world's most perfect acrostic poem or a badly
It is
written
just a
sonnet.
acrostic poem.
Oh, just an
Oh, so
acrostic
it could,
poem.
at the level of
A badly written sonnet where at least
mm,
they made some effort, or an acrostic poem, which I don't know how much effort goes into acrostic poems
Oh.
nowadays.
well, according to my students, very little.
There you go.
I think I'd still have to go with the badly written sonnet, I'm afraid.
I was thinking the same.
I'm
Julian.
not feeling the love for acrostic poems here. I think I guarantee you, if whoever wrote that acrostic poem for you chose the right words for each letter, you would love it.
All right, there's a challenge,
Because
everyone.
it doesn't have to be
Write
just
in an
remember.
acrostic poem
It
that will
doesn't
Write
have
us
cause
an acrostic
Eloise
poem.
to divorce her husband.
Depending on how many letters you choose to use of the person's name, also you could craft a sonnet as an acrostic poem. Now, how
Oh,
would that go?
Ooh.
layers.
Layers and layers.
Yeah, think about it.
I did really like I think it was on Reddit years ago about a woman who wrote like a beautiful poem for her husband's grave, but it turns out she had found out he had been cheating on her and had a second family, and the woman from that family got together with her and like the it turned out to be an acrostic poem and the side of it was something like fucking cheater or something like that. I can't remember.
Outstanding.
I could just be making all of that up. It was Reddit after all. So
Yeah.
I don't understand double families. I can barely deal with my own current single family without being exhausted by the end of each day.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't understand that either. All right. Well, yes, write in your lovely acrostic poems, people. See if you can win our hearts with an acrostic poem.
I have
Mm.
faith in someone out there to write in an acrostic poem that will release me from my underpants.
It's not hard, people.
I don't have a heck of a lot of depth, so
There are no standards. Oh, all right. Thank you very much, Brayton. I think maybe if you can put a link to that particular video in the show notes,
I'll have to
perhaps.
try and find it again. It's
Uh,
by that was this morning. That was 12 hours ago. It's lost to the ether now. It's
The link is
gone.
still in the chat.
Yeah, but
it'll
I
be
can't link to our chat in the show notes.
no, but you can copy the link
You
from the
go to
chat.
the chat and go into it. Doesn't matter. You know what? It doesn't matter. American public
We'll send a
education
carrier
is not good.
pigeon. We can do this, people. Watch the skies. Anyway, before we move on to the main topic of today, would you like to talk about what you have been reading this week?
Nothing. Literally, I have not opened my book for a couple of weeks. I feel
Aw.
horrible, but it that is what it is. I've been watching too much TV.
Well, we've
Look,
been on holidays. It's the only time we have to catch up on TV.
And I
that's
still get
fair.
interrupted constantly. So I didn't finish the movie last night, Brayden. I
Oh,
didn't finish
really?
it. I think I watched 15 minutes of it and then family
Only
stuff happened.
15 minutes. I got through two
Well,
movies in the last couple of nights, which was good.
what movie did you watch?
I watched Nosferatu.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that good?
It is really good.
Excellent. I
If
do want to
you
see that.
if you enjoyed Gary Oldman and Francis Ford Coppola directed that.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
If you enjoyed their version of Dracula, this has very similar. Well, they're kind of. It's weird. Nosferatu is kind of based off a movie that was an unofficial adaptation of Dracula.
Correct. Back in the 30s, silent film, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, it was the
German
first
film.
Mm.
vampire film, wasn't it? Very famous film, I'm pretty
I don't know
sure.
if it was the first one, but it has such a cult following,
Mm.
and the portrayal of the vampire is so startling that, of course, rumors have persisted that he was a real vampire.
Mm.
Oh, of
They made a
course.
movie about that,
Yeah.
about 20 or 30
Shadow of
years
the
ago.
Vampire, I think
Yeah.
it was called.
Well, I think
Ooh.
Willem Dafoe was in that as
Willem
well.
Dafoe was the vampire in that, and now
Mm.
he's in
Yeah.
the another remake of Nosferatu.
So
Layers and
is he the Van
layers.
Helsing character in this
He
one?
he is. He's not Van Helsing because there are no.
No, there's no
Yeah,
shared
because this is
names,
not
but
an adaptation of Dracula, even though it hits a lot of the same beats as Dracula. It is
no,
a yeah,
it's an unofficial one, I believe.
yeah. Although it does credit Bram Stoker in the credits.
Mm.
Like it says, it's based on the Nosferatu, the 1920s movie, and Dracula.
Which
Ooh,
was
okay.
based on the novel of Dracula, the
Yeah,
original anyway. So
yeah. But at least they acknowledge Bram Stoker. But yes, very good. Lily Rose Depp surprisingly giving a brilliant performance. I say that because
Huh.
I honestly don't think I've seen her in anything else. But
well,
she was fantastic.
I mean, the acting chops she comes from, it's not a surprise if she's got that talent.
Mm.
Hmm. Well,
So
did
yeah,
you actually read any books?
No.
I've started reading The Queen Thief, which is the third book in the Assassin Thief trilogy by Madeline Tevu, who's been on
I
the show
see.
before.
Ah,
So
hello, Madeline. Excellent.
finally getting to that,
I wonder if
finishing
she
off the
actually
trilogy.
listens anymore.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
that'd be nice.
Write in, Madeline, if you're still here.
Well, I finished reading The Bookbinder of Jericho by Pip Williams. I'll pop that onto the screen for those following on YouTube or for reels that Brayton might like to do. This book is utterly fantastic. I will recommend this to everyone. So, basically, I don't want to give too much away about it. It starts in 1914, it goes till about 1920. So obviously it's like set in the background of World War One. World War One is just like the background to the story. It's just the thing that's happening. So what it actually is about is it's a point of view book by a character called Peggy, a young girl, or not young, actually, young woman, I should say. She's a late teenager, who works in a bookbinding factory in Jericho, which is like a small little town in London, essentially. And it's seeing the world and how the world changes around her through her eyes and through the eyes of other women in the town, basically. So it is a very feminist book. Um, and it's just essentially like it's about classes as well, because she has this desire to go to Somerville, which is a university essentially for women, and then hopefully one day on to Oxford, so she can become a scholar. But because of her rank at her birth, it's not something that a lot of people would have seen being within their reach. And there are other things sort of like revolving around her that might prevent her from following her dream. So it's kind of a story about her trying to find a place in the world, trying to find out who she is. There's a love story involved. It comes through the eyes of refugees from Belgians that come into the town as well, to flee from what's happened, what started the war essentially. And it's really interesting to learn all of like specific bookbinding techniques as well, because this is obviously back in the day before mass production with machines creating books. Like this is back in the day when people physically sewed books together, and you would have sections, you would have like the women's section who would put all the pages together, and then you'd have the men's section who actually did the binding with like the covering of the books. And it was such a fascinating read to sort of see again how there are certain things that was considered women's work or things that was considered men's work, and how it was still so divided, and how we still have those exact same arguments today over certain career choices as to whether or not they belong to men or women, which is silly and stupid, really. There's no such thing as women's jobs or men's jobs. It's just jobs. Anyone can do them. So I always look at it from
Disagree.
the oh yeah,
You
yeah.
cannot be a groom.
That's not a job.
On the wedding day, it is.
That's not that's not a job. Being silly.
When have
It's
I
not a
never?
job.
When, when have
When
I
have you
never
never
not
been
been
silly?
silly?
That
Never.
yeah.
I mean,
Never.
I guess
Oh.
technically you still can't be a female Catholic priest.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, but like, we're getting into semantics
Mm.
here. I mean, no, that is true. I can't be a Catholic priest, but that's not because I can't physically do the job. It's because certain patriarchal systems are in place to prevent me from such.
You are now allowed to be gay and become a Catholic priest.
That is true. So there's, baby
Yes.
steps forward.
Yep.
I will
Progress,
say
I
the current
suppose.
Pope is trying hard to make steps forward.
Mm.
Very, very
Yes.
slow, small steps. Gotta love how people are telling the Pope to piss off as well because he's apparently too woke.
Oh.
Certain
The
people. We
Catholic,
won't talk about them.
the Pope is.
The Pope.
Yeah.
We
You know
won't
what?
talk
The
about
Oh,
Pope.
that.
The Pope really doesn't get Christianity.
He really oh,
I have
no.
heard that people. Oh, what would the Pope know about the Bible?
Jesus is too woke, apparently. Anyway,
Uh,
teachings of Jesus. No, let's not get into that, or we'll be sitting here all night talking about that. Yes, so it's a fantastic read. It's funny how, like, my mind always wanders to people having arguments about why we can't move away from fossil fuels. It's like, oh, but all of the people who will lose their jobs. It's just like bookbinders don't exist in mass numbers anymore. It's all done by machines. Like you obviously still have people who specialize in bookbinding. They are a specific specialized career. It is not an entire room full of people any longer. You can move away from the thing that's destroying the planet and get people new jobs. That's how things work. Anyway, that's and that's my high horse. I'd
Are
like
you
to
going
stand
to
on
be
today.
reading the Dictionary of Lost Words?
I will read the Dictionary of Lost Words. So I did work out that you do not need to have read the Dictionary of Lost Words before you read this one. There are some references in the book I realize that do reference what happens in that book. It is set about 30 years before this book,
Mm.
with a specific character who is named but doesn't appear. So you can read the Bookbinder of Jericho completely without having read the Dictionary of Lost Words beforehand. I will move on to that. It's not my next book that I'm going to move on to just yet. So look, 5 out of 5 for Bookbinder of Jericho. Thoroughly recommend. Go purchase one now. I have actually already started reading a second book, and I'll just bring up my phone so I know who the author is. It's called The Cat Who Saved Books, and it's by Suzuki Natsukawa.
I was literally about to say that sounds like a Ghibli title,
Look, oh my God,
and
Brayton,
then
seriously, I read the blurb of this book and I went, this is a Ghibli film. Like, how has Hayao Miyazaki not gotten his hands on this novel and thought, I'm going to turn this into a movie? Because what happens in this book, from what the blurb describes, is it is the epitome of what Studio Ghibli puts out in their fantasy films. It's basically about a teenage boy, his only living relative, his grandfather passes away and leaves him a bookshop. And then a talking cat turns up and says, we've got to go save a bunch of books that have been imprisoned. And then they go through a labyrinth, and then a girl is involved. I'm like, I'm so excited about
just like
it.
any Ghibli movie, a girl is involved.
A girl is involved who, like, she's just turned up, and I think she's going to be a lot more important to the plot than she's just a girl. I'm really hoping in any case. I really
Yeah, that'd be a
hope
bit
it's
of a
not
letdown.
just. I'm going to be a bit disappointed if it turns out she's just the love interest who has no autonomy for herself. But anyway, I'm very excited. I'm already like, it's in three parts, and it's actually a very short novel. I think it's more of a young adult novel than it is an adult novel, actually. But I was so intrigued by it
Look,
when I
nothing wrong
saw
with
it.
that.
I found it in New York. I didn't actually buy it in New York. As I said the last time I think we podcasted, I was very good and did not but purchase millions of books while I was in New York, because I said to myself, books exist in Australia. I can buy them back here. Although annoyingly, I have ordered a book called The Paris Novel, which I saw in America. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a really good book. I want to get that. It's freaking out of print here, isn't it? And I've been waiting for 3 weeks for my local bookstore to get it, and they still haven't got it yet. So should have bought that one in America, unfortunately. But yes, I do so far recommend The Cat That Saved Books. And if anyone from Studio Ghibli out there is listening, make this anime, make that movie, because you need to.
As long as it's not Goro Miyazaki.
No, Goro, go away. You no.
He has made, I think, what, the two least well-reviewed Ghibli movies?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. The other person I think who could do it is Makoto Shinkai, who is the person behind animes such as Your Name
Oh,
or
I love Your
May
Name.
or Weathering with You.
Yeah, Your Name and Weathering with You are both great. Although
Makoto Shinkai,
Your Name is the superior movie out of at least the ones I've seen.
they're so good. Makoto Shinkai is basically, everyone is saying he is the new Hayao Miyazaki. So, hey, Makoto, if you're out there listening, make this movie. Somebody needs to make this movie. Anyway, that's what I've got to say about what I've been reading this week. So
Cool.
if unless anyone else has any ambitions about what they would like to be reading next, we might move on to the main topic.
All right.
Are we going moving on to the main topic?
Who's moving on to the main topic?
You were the one who suggested it, so
It wasn't me.
Yes, it was. You literally posted it in the
It was
chat.
not me this time.
Oh, was it Julian?
It was.
Oh, okay. I get you two mixed up in the chat.
Once again,
sometimes.
I'm forgotten.
I'm so sorry.
Fine.
Julian, would you like to
Again.
talk about the topic that
The
you
irrelevant
came up
trumpeter is relevant.
would you like to come up with talk about
No
the
one-
topic that
no
you
No
and
one got my
only
Goes
you-
Wrong show reference.
No, we didn't. Julian, over to you, Julian.
Well, being an English teacher who has just been reading over the new prescribed text lists that we've been given for Queensland high schools, and working in a more conservative school, and a recent tweet, I suppose it was, from Stephen King, I thought we could start talking tonight about the topic of book banning. Once it was a big deal, particularly in the 50s and 60s, and seems to be making a rather unfortunate return in certain areas of the world. The Western world as well, not places where you might expect that, but in the US, and even talks of trying to introduce things like that into certain Australian areas as well. So I thought we might cover books that are most commonly banned, some books that are surprisingly banned, and maybe ones that we think possibly should be or agree that they are, which may be few and far between. I don't know. So anyway, I would like to start with what kind of tipped me off is that Stephen King now has 68 books banned in Florida.
Who doesn't have a book banned in Florida, really?
68. And he
68.
Out of how many
books has he
how many
written?
books has he written?
70 odd, I think.
So
Let's
most
find
of
out. If
them.
only there
Just
was
about.
some way to look up this information.
Oh, again, impossible.
We don't know.
So while Brayton's looking that up, Julian, exactly why are his books banned?
Oh, I can posit my own theories and reasons, and I'm sure he could too. He has a great quote, and I would 100% back this. And when books are banned from school libraries, run to your public library or the nearest bookstore and read what it is your elders don't want you to know.
Mm.
And I think that's a great thing. But look, if I had to guess why he has so many books banned in Florida, probably because he is extraordinarily outspoken against Donald Trump. And of course, Florida is Donald Trump's, I don't know what you want to call it, Holy Land, perhaps. I don't know.
It's his Graceland.
Yep. If you'd like to know, King has published 65 novels and novellas, 5 non-fiction books, and over 200 short stories.
There you go. And 68 of all of that is banned in Florida.
So it must include some short stories then.
It does. Yep. I'll give a not complete list because I don't want to read all 68, but apt pupil, I could understand why that may be banned.
Yep.
Carrie is banned, probably because it has a female protagonist who takes revenge on those who bully her. It is banned.
What's
I'm
banned?
going to argue it's
It.
because of
It? What?
It.
What book?
It is. It
we're
is.
not
It
It is banned.
What's that? What
we're
books?
not doing Who's on First.
Hospital.
Moving
What is it?
on.
Most of the Dark Tower
Really?
series.
The Dark
Really?
Tower.
Yeah. Probably
Okay.
because it's that fantasy style stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it's
God.
the devil.
11/22/63 is banned. I don't know why they'd ban that. Christine is banned.
Because it's about female empowerment.
No, it's about a haunted car.
Oh wait, oh no, I'm confusing it with Carrie. Sorry.
Carrie is female empowerment and
Yes.
therefore banned. Yes.
You could argue that Christine is about female empowerment if the car is gendered as female. I don't know.
Well, the
Oh,
car
wait.
is
No,
very
that's
definitely
why.
a female car.
That's why it's because it's giving gender to a car. We can't have that. Who knows?
This was in 1983 as well, people. Dolores Claiborne is, of course, banned because it's about a woman who kills her husband because her husband is sexually abusing their daughter.
Oh,
So,
God.
of course, ban that.
Yep.
Can't have women getting ideas. Hearts in Atlantis is banned, which is and Mr. Mercedes, which is just about an old retired cop.
It's probably quicker to read the list that aren't banned.
Oh no.
The Dead Zone, of course, is banned because
Oh,
essentially the
100%.
bad guy is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The Shining is banned because I guess haunted hotels in Colorado are not something you should ever read about.
They're woke.
I'm assuming
Tom Gordon is banned.
with everything you've told me about King, I'm assuming he kind of wears these bans as like a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
100%.
He's
I get
had a
the-
bit of a laugh about it.
I get the feeling that the reason that they'll give is probably because of violence. I can only assume. It's just, it's just too violent. There's too much violence in there.
I know why the Green Mile is banned because it's very much against the death penalty.
Well, yeah.
It's about a wrongly accused black man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's never been such a thing.
Definitely,
They can't be wrong.
Definitely,
They cannot be
injustice is a central theme to that story.
No,
Yeah.
and it's not like I think something like 90% of wrongly incarcerated people in the US are people of color.
Yeah.
Either. But anyway, that's Stephen King's banned books. There's a whole list more like some that we might know. Margaret Atwood has 10 banned novels.
Well,
Oh, is The
obviously,
Handmaid's
yes.
Tale on that list?
I
No.
why would it be? That's like a guidebook for them.
Oh, true, true.
Um,
It's banned for everyone else
Yeah.
except
yeah.
them. They literally just used it as an encyclopedia or something. Oh my God.
Rose Madder is banned, which, if you've ever read it, is literally about a woman who escapes an abusive marriage. The husband tries to track her down, and she kills him.
Oh, wonder why that
Yeah,
would be
Cool.
banned.
I don't know. Salem's Lot, because
I
vampires are just, you got to ban that. His book on writing, which is all about how he writes, is banned.
Yep.
Vampires are very sexy and they're just afraid that they're going to be stealing all of their women from.
I
That's
suppose
true.
so.
That's true.
I do like how Margaret Atwood actually put out a special version of The Handmaid's Tale that can't be burned. Like there's a video of her
Mm.
using a flamethrower and the book just won't catch fire. I thought that's amazing. I personally won't read The Handmaid's Tale and I refuse to watch the TV show because I don't need to see or read that for entertainment when I can turn on the news.
Mm.
So yeah, it just I don't need to be told. I already know.
The US and in particular the Midwest and southern states very much have a history of banning anything that is slightly controversial towards them in particular. So you tend to find books like To Kill a Mockingbird is constantly on the banned list and is once again on the banned list because it upsets people, because it makes them feel bad for being racist, I suppose, which is the fucking point of the novel. Um,
Yeah.
Well, I was just looking here. Australia has banned quite a few books over the
Oh yeah,
years too.
we do that quite often, but we
we
just
have.
as I was saying before we started recording, our attitude to when we ban books tends to be like, nah, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to allow it to happen for a long period of time before it's
Well,
just like,
some
no, we'll
examples
rethink
here.
that.
We have Lady Chatterley's Lover.
It was banned
Well,
around the world, really.
Yep,
all the
was
sex in
banned
it.
was banned from 1929 to 1965.
See, I can understand that if you were banning that now because of all the sex, which I don't think there. I've not actually read it. Is there a lot of sex in it, or is it?
I'm not sure.
Well,
In
given when it was written by D.H. Lawrence also was a homosexual.
in comparison
So
to what we have nowadays, do we think if it's like
Yeah.
really controversial?
no, not
Probably
now, but
not.
again, it was a sex book written by a homosexual, so you can't have that.
Yeah.
No,
Impropriety
obviously
and
not.
all.
Oh,
Yeah. Brave New World has been
Was yeah,
was banned
Well,
from
a lot
1932 to 1937.
a lot of places ban Brave New World for the
Yep.
same reasons.
The one that surprised me actually is American Psycho.
again, I think it's because of all the violence in it, though.
Yeah.
American Psycho was banned and is still quite controversial in a lot of countries. Not
Yes.
banned, but very much restricted
It
to
was. It says here, sale and purchase was banned in the Australian state of Queensland.
Mhm.
It's now available in public libraries and for sale to people 18 years and older.
But it has to be a blank cover, I believe. You can't have the cover
Yeah,
on display.
I'm honestly not sure.
And yeah,
I can't recall. Is it based on a murder that took place, or did it inspire a murder?
more likely it inspired a
Yeah.
murder. It's just, I mean, the author Bret Easton Ellis, I think, said, just looking at these boardroom guys, it wouldn't surprise him if they were all serial killers as well. But if you've ever read it, I mean, the film is really good. It's a great film, and I highly recommend it. But the book itself is very much a diary of killing and brutality, particularly towards women. But it's
Yeah.
written in such a way where it's just it's almost like a part of his to-do list. Like it's like, I woke up this morning, I did my workout, I did this for breakfast, I went to work, I talked to this person, I went to the dry cleaners, I picked up some videos, I went for a drink, I brutally raped and murdered 3 hookers, I went home, I went to sleep. That's kind of how it's written. And of course, all of that's in great detail. So
Yeah.
he literally explains exactly what he did every step of the way.
Yeah.
And
I was just
think the
looking
point-
up. Sorry, Eloise, to go back on your thing about if it inspired any crimes.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
on the Wikipedia, there are 3 crimes listed here, but it all seems like hearsay. That one was the Strathfield Massacre in Sydney. in
Oh, because
1991.
he'd read a copy of it at
It
some
was
point. Yeah.
suggested that Noel had inspired. There was another one here, a Canadian serial killer, that a copy of it was found in his home, but it was apparently his wife's copy, and the person that committed the crimes had never read it. And there was another case somewhere, Duke Lacrosse case. Oh, it was a hoax, but it was suggested that a person sending some emails to someone was imitating Patrick Bateman. But so it seems like a case of like moral panic that people, you find that in your shelf, then if you committed a crime, then that must have been a influence on you.
Was it? Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you read all of these books and therefore that's what
Oh,
turned you.
you listen to heavy metal music,
Yeah.
therefore you're going to go and do horrible things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole satanic panic
Yes.
all over
The
again, really.
Yeah, the issue with the novel itself is that everything's written from a very detached point of view. He doesn't feel anything.
Yeah, and I was going to make the point before that, I mean, that's the point, is the fact that he was such a narcissistic character that there is no feeling or emotion to anything that he's doing.
Mm.
Like that was just the character, and that's how it was described, essentially. It comes out a lot easier to sort of see, I suppose, in the film. And I really love how the way that the film was edited it's William Dafoe who plays the police officer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he filmed all of his scenes 3 times, and he was
Yep.
told, play it that you know he's the killer, play it that you don't think he's the killer, or then play it that you think it could go either way. So there's something ambiguous. And then basically it was up to the director and the editor to choose which scene to put in
And
throughout the
sometimes,
film.
yeah, in each scene, sometimes it's all three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah, which
no
is
this scene
amazing.
he's playing it this way and that scene it's that. So it's in one scene he might be playing it all three ways.
Yeah.
It's really well
Incredible.
edited, yeah.
Mm.
And the movie is fantastic. The book is very detached, but again, that's the point of it. That's the whole idea of I feel nothing, and that was Bret Easton Ellis's kind of commentary on 80s stock market kind of high flyers. It's
Mm,
like with Wall Street, with greed, for lack of a better word, is good. That
mm.
eponymous sort of quote. So I can kind of see why people might be like, should people be reading this? Because he clearly very much doesn't like women.
Yeah.
The character, not Bret Easton Ellis.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't like anyone. If you've seen the film, he's quite brutal towards Paul, played by Jared Leto.
Isn't
Mm.
that the one because he has a better
He has a better card, better
Yeah.
business
See, I
card.
feel
Yeah.
like that was based on something that had happened where the writer did like apparently know a bunch of people who got really uppity about their business cards and
Oh,
were
it's all
trying
about the looks. Like that whole scene was all about the aesthetics. Who had the better
Yeah.
suit? Who had the better office? Who, had the better body? Who had the better business cards?
Yeah, what I love about that business card scene is really if you looked at them all, you could tell no difference between any
No,
of them.
but they could.
Yes. I love
That.
the I love the edits you can find on YouTube where they replace the business cards with like Pokemon cards.
Hmm.
They're just talking about Pokemon cards
Brilliant.
instead.
Brilliant. Love it. So,
So yeah,
people
we
have too
have
much
been,
time.
in recent years, there's been some concern around certain LGBTQ plus books
Yeah, that
that have
seems to be
faced a
the
bit
big
of
one
scrutiny.
at the moment. It's always like, kids' novels that have love is love and oh, this penguin has two daddies. It's like, quick, let's ban it. Like, I
Penguins
just
are very openly gay, though.
Yeah.
Like literally, penguins can be very much gay. So can geese. So can bears, I think.
I believe
Um,
the statistic is 10% of mammal species exhibit
Mm.
homosexual traits.
Yep.
So when people
that is the
argue,
same in
oh,
humans.
it's so unnatural, oh, you don't see it in animals, it's like, yeah, you do. You're just not looking. And
Mm. But I guess the question is that you brought up earlier, Julian, is that is there ever a justified book ban?
A straight out flat ban. No one can read this book ever.
Mm.
I've decided you're not allowed. I personally say no. I think if we censor literature, then we are deciding what a person has the right to consume and what they don't.
Hmm.
Now, I think there are times when we have to be careful about who sees certain literature.
mm,
So, for example, something like American Psycho, I would say yes, restricting something like that to specific audiences is a good thing. Even something like Mein Kampf. Should we ban Mein Kampf? That's a touchy one. That's a really
Mm.
touchy one because there's two sides to that. If I say it's okay to ban this, then I can't rightly say it's not okay to ban this.
Mm.
Mm.
And that's the line that we have to tread. And I used to bring this up, particularly when we were talking in legal studies, when I taught that a few years back. We talked a lot about freedom of speech and banning what people have the right to say and what they don't have the right to say. And some people were getting upset because we're being told people are wanting to say this and they shouldn't be allowed. I'm like, well, you want your side to be heard. So therefore you can't say someone else's side can't be heard.
Mm.
If I say, I think this should be okay to read, or certain audiences should be allowed to read this, I can't in good conscience say, well, you have to then ban this because I don't like the content of that.
Mm.
So if you talk about a book like Mein Kampf, for example, do you ban something like that? Or do you use it in such a way that it's more of a teaching tool, maybe?
Mm.
Look at the dangers of propaganda.
Yeah, it reminds me of that meme where someone says like I'm reading Mein Kampf on the bus, but shaking my head every 30 seconds to make sure people know I don't agree with it.
And I think there is a place for, I think to say, no, this book is not allowed at all, ever. No one can read it. I've decided that is the fastest way to make people read it. And then they perhaps begin to read into it things that either they shouldn't read. Like imagine if Mein Kampf is banned, and so all of a sudden people who sympathize with Nazis decide, well, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to make sure I like it, and I'm going to make sure I take those points in. Now we don't have any control over where they're getting it from, who's reading it with them, and who they're sharing those ideas with.
Because I think the large majority of people currently who might not identify as Nazis but are 100% Nazis have very likely not read Mein Kampf. But the second you suddenly say, well, we're going to get rid of this, they probably will then go out and try and read it.
And there's ways of...
Yeah, it's the typical thing that as soon as you say you can't do this, people are going to go do it.
And if you tell a teenager don't read, they'd say, I wasn't going to anyway. But the second you ban something from a teenager, they're going to want to do it. But it's also, you get yourself into a bind. I think it's Kentucky or it's one of the Midwest states they've been very careful about not banning any specific title, but they have banned books that contain things like incest, talk of homosexuality, and various other sexual things. And someone said, well, mate, you've just banned the Bible in your schools.
I was going to bring that up. Wasn't there? Yeah, there was somewhere in America that had a very specific way of banning something. And it's like, well, you've banned the Bible now. Well done.
Yes. And so you run that risk as well of if I start to ban things, then maybe I'll wind up. If I ban something because it's racially sensitive, perhaps, then you run the risk of banning something like To Kill a Mockingbird, which is a great example of what happens when you let racism get the better of a town, which is, of course, why they want to ban it. But, like, I don't know. I don't think you should ever say this book is 100% banned. It cannot be read. I think that's the fastest way of not controlling the content of that book.
So how do you respond then when I just, first of all, agree with you. I don't think we should ban any books, but I think there needs to be some, at least, what's the word, context put around those books before people read them.
Yeah.
How does that translate then to people that would take some of those more extreme ideas out onto the streets, and then that becomes hate speech, I guess, if you know what I mean? Like, where is that line between reading the book and then taking those ideas and applying them, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Just playing devil's advocate here, because I do agree with you. Yeah,
I get it. But like, if to take for example, once upon a time, pornography was banned in Australia, but only in such a way that they couldn't sell it here. You could still order it in from other countries. That wasn't illegal. So it's the same thing. If I ban it, they're going to find a way to get it. So
Mm.
one way or another, this material is out there and it's accessible. And we live in a very global world thanks to the internet. If I want to find a banned book, I'm going to find it.
Mm.
So what I do first of all, if I ban it, I give it power that it shouldn't have. And that's a really big deal. If I say this book is banned because of the ideologies that it portrays, the ideologies that it can suffuse in people, then I give it a power that it shouldn't have. But if I control how it's delivered and how it's seen and how it's discussed, I take that power away from it because then it becomes a book of thinking rather than a book of power, if that makes sense.
No, that's a good way to put it, and it's right that banning something makes it more powerful. It's the same. A very simple example is when you tell a teenager don't use a swear word.
Hmm.
What's the first thing they're going to do?
They're going to use it
They're going to
because it's got power.
gives it more power. Whereas
Hmm.
if you teach a kid that yes, we sometimes use these bad words, but we're here at home in a safe place where you might be free to use those words as long as you're not telling you or your brother or your sister or a family member to F off. But that's very different to if you go to school and tell a teacher the same thing. There will be consequences then.
Mm.
So it's about it's about, I guess, providing that context to it.
Yeah.
We've said with our kids, and because they're quite young still, that yes, you're going to hear swear words, and I don't want you using those swear words because they're adult words. Just like adults drink alcohol because you have to get to a certain age before you're allowed to drink it. Same thing with swear words. You should be of a certain age before you can start using them. That's obviously just kid logic. I'm not going to be able to control when they start swearing because it's a thing that all children go through. Like I just want them to understand right now in their smallness. Please don't use these words because they're adult words.
Some of
And
us
we
never
also
grow out of it.
yeah. We also frame it like we don't say swear words are bad words because they're not bad words. Like bad words are things that are like something that are hurtful or offensive, like the N word or the
Yes.
particular gay slurs, for
Mm.
example. Like we try to encourage that those types of words are bad and we should not use them because they are hurting someone. Whereas swear words are just an emphasis that might offend people, and that we would prefer you to use when you're much older, but we're not going to say those words are banned,
Mm.
Mm.
essentially. Much the same as books, really. In terms of school banning books,
Mm.
I get very angry because it's not usually about protecting kids from things that might not be appropriate for their age bracket. Like, for example, banning American Psycho.
Mm.
Good reason. But people tend to take it the other way of we can't possibly have any kind of book with any positive LGBTQIA plus themes in them, which seems to be the flavor of the year, unfortunately, is that every single book that you can think of has now that might have something to do with, gay or trans people in it gets banned immediately from schools because, oh, the children are too young to understand that. Well, it's no, they are children are gay and children are trans or intersex or genderqueer or have any kind of part of the the queer rainbow spectrum about them. They are already these people and they will only turn into them more as they grow older and they understand their identity. And I think having good, positive, accepting books where they see themselves in them is really important. So things like Heartstopper, I understand, has a lot of, not graphic sexual stuff in it, but teenage sexual stuff in it. Let teenagers read those books because it might actually help them understand what it is that they're feeling and then have a proper open conversation with them. I mean, sure, don't read Heartstopper to
Mm.
a 5-year-old. Things have
There is a
age
degree of common
brackets.
sense
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
for
well.
a
and again, it's all
reason.
about the context. Like if your kid came
Yes.
home with a copy of American Psycho and said, "I found this in the library,"
It's like,
Be
well,
like,
that shouldn't be in the
no,
library then,
yeah,
darling.
yeah. You would definitely be contacting the school saying there's been a grave mistake here.
Yes,
Mm.
but I'm not going to contact the school over a grave mistake with the penguin with two dads.
And that's the thing. When we start banning something around LGBTQIA plus, and my question, and any listener out there, please, without using the Bible, because any good Christian apologetic will tell you that the Bible is not reasonable to use as an argument for someone who doesn't believe in the Bible. And Brayton, you've told me many times you don't believe in the Bible. So please, any listener, please tell me how much damage, physical, emotional, ruinations to society or whatever, a book about two gay penguins has caused over someone with a gun.
Hmm.
Please tell me. Please tell me how much more that has ruined people's lives than someone with a gun who has used it on people. And that's why I don't like the idea of banning books. Books don't cause people to do stupid things. What they do is they find things that they agree with already. And it's the same thing. If you say a book made me do this, you're full of shit. What you've done is you've gone out and you've looked for an excuse to do what you were already planning to do. And so you've found essentially an echo chamber that okays what you're already feeling. So if you're saying books are ruining society because they contain gay things in them, no, what they're actually doing is affirming gay relationships. And now that hasn't ruined society. Not yet. And societies have been around for what, 10,000 years, and I'm yet to see where homosexuality has actually caused the degradation of a society to collapse. But terrorism, violence, guns, all those kinds of things, now they have caused ruinations of society. And anyone who says they got the idea to shoot up a school from a book is lying. They were looking for a reason to do it, and they found something that gave them an excuse. And that is why I don't like the idea of banning books as well. First of all, yes, you give it a power. Second of all, this book exists. Thousands of people read Rage, I think it is, by Stephen King, which is about a bloke who goes into a school. He shoots the teacher and a student who bullied him, I think, and then proceeds to have a discussion with the class that he's holding hostage. And they go into a lot of different things. But the book, it wasn't banned, and he didn't officially pull it from publication. He let the publication lapse.
Yeah.
But the fact is, one person used that as an excuse to shoot up a school. Thousands of other people who read it didn't. They didn't go and shoot up a school. If you're going to do something, you're going to do it. If you're saying that this book made me do it, it's because you were looking for a reason. You were looking for something that allowed you to affirm your own feelings. So banning books is not the answer. And you shouldn't ban a book because it makes you uncomfortable. You should look at the reason it's making you uncomfortable. The US bans books like To Kill a Mockingbird. They ban books like The Grapes of Wrath. They ban books like Catcher in the Rye. They ban books
1984.
like 1984 because it makes them uncomfortable. Now, why does it make you uncomfortable? That's the bigger question. And if it makes you uncomfortable because in To Kill a Mockingbird, a black guy gets shot trying to escape prison, and that makes you uncomfortable, or Atticus Finch defending a black man makes you uncomfortable, or Scout having no idea why defending a black man being on trial is such a big deal, or why going and playing with his kids is such a big deal, if that makes you uncomfortable, you got bigger questions to ask yourself then, what's wrong with this book? Same with 1984. If that makes you uncomfortable because you don't like the way it portrays governments, you got a few more questions to ask yourself. It should make you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
To Kill a Mockingbird should make you question things. If a text makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself why. Don't ban it. Ask yourself why it makes you uncomfortable. And if the answer is because I don't like the fact that it portrayed white people like this, you got a bigger problem than To Kill a Mockingbird. If it's because I don't like what it says about our government, first of all, it's not a real government in 1984, guys. It's not. It was made up. So if that portrayal makes you uncomfortable, maybe you got bigger issues than 1984. Don't
Maybe
ban the
if you're a
book.
government, don't read 1984 and think of it as a handbook, please.
If books about gay people make you uncomfortable,
Mm.
ask yourself why. If gay people make you uncomfortable, ask yourself why. You've got bigger problems than a book. That's banning books doesn't work because people are still going to find them anyway.
I'm pretty sure there's not a single child who has ever died listening to a book being read to them by a drag queen.
No, and Jon Stewart had a great interview about that, and if you haven't seen it, do yourselves a favor.
Yeah.
Can I bring up, there's another point where, I don't know if you remember, Julian, we talked about a bit, many years ago now, Amazon, at least here in Australia, I don't know if they still do now, they decided to stop selling a book that was vehemently, I think, anti-trans. Do you remember this at all?
It's not ringing a bell.
There was a book that came out by some. I'm not going to look them up because I don't want to give them any publicity. But it was essentially questioning the whole thing of how we treat children that have gender dysphoria. And it was, pretty much anti-trans, but Amazon decided not to stock the book. And there was a whole big hissy fit from certain groups of people that were like, oh, this is stifling free speech, and saying, oh, they're banning books. Anyone that bans books is on the wrong side of history. But I want to say that I think there is a difference between a private company choosing not to sell a book rather than an all-out book ban.
Absolutely. Amazon choosing to not sell a book is a private company, as you said, choosing to not sell a book. The government stepping in and banning a book is a very different thing.
Yes.
But on the flip side of that, if you've got something that is literally hate speech, then I hate to tell you, that's not free speech. Free speech doesn't give you the right to create hate speech. That's not what free speech is. Okay, free speech is my right to stand up and say to the people, and this is literally what free speech is. It's my right to stand up and say to the people in charge, I don't like what you're doing. What you're doing is wrong. That's what free speech is. Free speech is not your right to stand up and say you don't like this group or that group, or whatever group, because they make you uncomfortable. That's not free speech. That's an opinion. And opinions, as you all know that saying, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. We don't need to see them all. And some of them stink. So,
yes, it's, what is it? You have freedom to say whatever you want, but not freedom from the consequences of what you say.
Well, you don't have freedom to say whatever you want. And that's the problem with free speech. People think it gives them the right to say whatever they want. No, it doesn't. It doesn't give you the right to say hateful, derogatory, harmful things. That's not free speech. That is hate speech. There's a difference.
And if you write down, and I guess the point of that whole thing is if you write down that hate speech into a book, you can't demand that every single company stock it.
No, it's a private case, like the bakery who refused to do the gay wedding catering. You know what? That's their right. I might not like it, but they're a private company. They are able to choose who they sell cakes to. That's their right. Now, that backfired on them because pretty much no one wanted to buy pastries from them ever again. And you run that risk.
Yep.
And Amazon runs that risk. If they're not going to stock that book, well, they run the risk of other people not publishing through their company. But they are a private company and they have the right to refuse business.
I think the thing with the bakery is slightly different because that comes down to discrimination, which is technically like illegal under the law, that you can't discriminate against someone, which is what they were doing. Whereas a company refusing to stock a book, I don't think falls under discrimination. It's just that it's their prerogative to say, well, this is a product that we don't wish to sell, which is different.
I think it would be different if, I think the difference would be that if you have a book that says this is very, example, here's a book that says I hate cats. Just a very simple thing. But you're trying to sell it on a website that is catbooksonly.com.
Well,
You're like,
It's still about cats.
it's still about cats,
It's never
but
about cats.
this, but you're saying like this book, which is very anti-cat, goes against everything we stand for as a company. Therefore, we are not selling it. That is different to someone then going, you wrote a book, but because you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community, we are not stocking your book. I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
Possibly. Again, private companies aren't necessarily bound by the same laws as the government or the public sector.
Yeah, if we're using discrimination as the example there, in one case, you're refusing to, you're not stocking the book because it goes against your company's philosophy, for example. Whereas in the other example, you're not stocking the book because of the person that wrote it, not the content of the book.
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
These are just examples. They're not real.
It's a tough one. Private companies have the right to refuse service if they feel that whoever they're providing service to is going to affect the company's, whatever you want to call it. So they have the right to refuse that sale if they want. And I suppose if a person is homosexual and they feel that they're a Christian company, for example, and it might go against the ethos of the company to do that, potentially you could have an argument there. Do I agree with it? Not really. Do I think it'll backfire on them? Absolutely, because that's a pretty shit ethos if your only reason for not wanting to deal with someone is because they're gay.
Yeah, but there is that more grey area discussion to be had.
Yeah, but and I want to get it clear. I don't see something like Mein Kampf as hate speech. I see it more as propaganda speech. Dangerous in its own right. Propaganda can be more dangerous than hate speech.
Yeah, everything I've heard about it so far, it's not actually a very good book. If we're just looking at in terms of is it a well-written book?
It was written by a crazy man who was very likely suffering from syphilis at the time. So
yeah.
How good could it be?
I mean, well, no, I don't feel the need to read it personally.
No. Do you think books like that, especially older books by people who have now passed on, do you think we could put disclaimers in the front of them, like very much the way that we have disclaimers now on a lot of older television movie medias, perhaps, to say the viewpoints of this book was written at a time when certain people believed in certain things, and that they, in context of current history now, we now know that this is not correct or something along those lines. Do you think maybe we could put that into certain books, or does that take away from the intent of the author and the authorship? Or
I guess that's really dependent on the book. Something like, Lady Chatterley's Lover is very different to something like Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf was written to act as propaganda and inspire a nation to essentially become fascist. Lady Chatterley's Lover was a book of entertainment, and its views back then were much, I guess, less overt than what we see now. So I guess it depends on the reasonings of the book as well. Like most books that were banned back then were banned for reasons we wouldn't ban a book today.
Well, Eloise, just to go off what you said, I just looked up Mein Kampf, which is actually available through Penguin Publishing.
I was wondering, is it actually available?
Yeah, I've actually seen it in QED before.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very rarely, but I do distinctly remember seeing it at one point going,
I mean,
there you go.
Part of teaching humanities is teaching about the wars, and it's teaching about the dangers of propaganda and, I guess, pork barreling and things like that, which I guess that's a good example of that.
Yeah.
Again, it's a controlled. If you sell it publicly, you take its power away.
It's a horrible book, but there is no. Look, I haven't read it, but the content of it and it's a horrible book. But there's no denying that it is an important historical book. But to go back to your point, sorry.
I was about to say, if you buy Mein Kampf, do you buy it like you buy condoms at a servo, where you have to buy a whole bunch of other books at the same time? Just like, I'll grab Stephen King, I'll grab some of the Tolkien and one of the Mein Kampfs as well, thanks.
Yep.
Well, yeah, the difference being most Woolies checkout people don't give a shit if you're buying condoms. You may get a side eye from the QBD bookstore person.
I went to uni with someone that worked at a pharmacy. This is way off topic.
Mm.
I'll get back to it. I work with someone at the pharmacy, and we asked her once, like, how do you handle the people that like come up and are buying condoms and lube, whatever else they might buy? Like, is that ever like awkward for them? It's like, if it's awkward for them, that's fine. Like, it's never awkward for me because my attitude is like, go you, you're getting some.
I'm
And
gonna make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Oh, extra large, la di da.
oh, you're full of shit. Well,
No, I
self-serve
wouldn't
has
do that.
taken away that embarrassment, unless, of
Yes.
That's
course,
true.
that's what the machine happens to freak out on.
This is why I
Uh,
support self-serve.
yeah.
And then everyone looks and why is this machine freaking out?
Oh
And
no. And then
As
the AI has like a voiceover. You are trying to buy condoms.
as you're constantly taking them in and out of the bag, trying to get the sensor to
unexpected
activate.
item in bagging area. Unexpected
Extra
item in
large.
bagging. You really think you can get laid?
Not tonight.
This is why we need to destroy AI. Anyway, go back to your
Yes.
point, Brayton.
You looked up. You were talking about how some older shows have a disclaimer
Yes.
on the front. I want to read you the blurb that is on the Penguin Publishing website for this book, and I think it nails it perfectly.
Mhm.
It says Mein Kampf was first published in 2 volumes in 1925-26, and sold between 8 and 9 million copies during Hitler's lifetime, as well as being widely translated. It is the most notorious political tract of the 20th century, a mixture of unreliable autobiography and half-baked political philosophy, which brought tragedy to Germany and the world. Mein Kampf is an evil book, but the Mannheim translation remains necessary reading for those who seek to understand the Holocaust, for students of totalitarian psychology, and for all who care to safeguard democracy. This edition contains an introduction by D.C. Watt, who served as Professor of International History at the London University from 1981 to 1993, which analyses Hitler's background, gives the origins and the history of the book, and ends with a critical assessment of both Hitler's incoherent ideas and his ruthless understanding of political power. All profits from the sale of this book are donated to an anti-discrimination charity.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, here's a question that is going to be a very hypothetical question. So the book was published in 1925, so arguably almost, 15 years before World War II started.
100 years ago.
Yeah. How much of that book's influence helped contribute to Hitler's rise to power? Did people read that book in that 10 to 15 year span and become indoctrinated from it to provide him support, the support that he needed to gain power? Because, like, if we're talking about when do you ban a book, what if there is a book out right now by one of Trump's many cronies, for example, that causes us to go down the same road again in 10 to 15 years' time, or even now, really? I mean, like, you could argue perhaps the art of the deal could have perhaps helped bring Trump to power.
I think, as much as I hate to say it, there's a difference in that whatever side of history you come down on with Adolf Hitler, he was undeniably much more captivating than Trump ever will be. So there is that. At the same time, also, I think part of the thing is when you look at Germany in the 1920s and what it was going through because of what happened in World War I, the country as a whole was very depressed socially and economically. And so this book and the Nazi Party at the time, although I don't know if they were officially called the Nazi Party at that point.
No, I can't recall, but they were called something else.
What year were we talking about, sorry?
1925. I don't know if they were at that point.
Yeah, maybe not. Anyway.
But anyway, my point is, like, you have to look at the country as a whole and what they were going through and the time as well in which they were living, and when their only forms of joy, I guess, if you will, or empowerment was through books. There was no TV. There was no real cinema. There was definitely no internet. So what you had was what you were able to read. And so, yeah, I think it would have inspired them in a lot of ways. It certainly, I think, contributed to his rise in very specific circles, which then allowed him to grab more power here, there, and everywhere. But in today's society, where we have a lot, I don't say we do, but we have a lot more freedom to find other sources that enable us to think critically about the literature in front of us.
Hmm.
I think we're less likely to find that one thing that's going to inspire a nation to react in the same way that something like Hitler's writings did in 1925, because the world is so much more open now. And we do have that ability to move out of echo chambers. I'm not saying we do, because clearly we don't, because look who we continue to vote into power.
Hmm.
But I think it's less likely that one or two documents would have that same reaction now. But if you ban them, you do give them that power,
Right.
because people go, well, there must be something dangerous in here that they don't want us to know. So if you ban a book by Trump, how many people are going to go, oh, well, what has Trump written that's so dangerous? I better go and read that. You give it power now that you wouldn't have given it back then, I think.
Mm. Well spoken. I very much agree with most of the points that you're making in terms of not banning books and the idea of like what censorship does. Because obviously there's a lot of that going on at the moment. At the same time, I do get very concerned about certain things that do fall into hate speech. And I think the one that worries me the most is a lot of those anti-LGBT type things, especially anti-trans stuff. And I think
Mm.
it's just because I know a small handful of trans people who are incredibly scared,
Understandably so,
who
yeah.
have been scared for more than a decade now because they have already seen the writing on the wall coming, where a lot of people are only just now starting to go, oh no, there's a lot of similarities here that I haven't noticed before. It's like, yeah, they were all there 10 years ago. You just weren't looking. You weren't paying attention. So, like, I do find it really concerning that there are things out there that contribute to their being in danger, essentially. I don't think he's ever written one, but has Andrew Tate, for example, ever written a book, or does he
I
just
doubt
rely
he
on the
knows how to
internet?
write.
Yeah. But it's people like that that I get concerned about if they were to write something, because you know it would be filled with some pretty horrific stuff about towards, queer people, trans people, towards women. And I've again, it's you are right though, if we ban it, it just makes them more curious to go and find it. But I just do get concerned about there being a source. So I know it comes down to we need to hopefully rely on publishing companies going, this is terrible, we're not doing this, or Amazon going, we're not going to allow this to be published or purchased off of our website because we don't want it to occur. And I think really what we need to be doing is obviously banding together and letting people know and understand, hey, there are these things out there, be aware of them, and educate people who might fall into the trap of wanting to read them.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know what we do in relation to that.
And people need to remember that hate speech does not fall under free speech.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And if that bursts your bubble, I'm sorry, but hate speech is not free speech. It's just being an asshole. There's a big difference. And people need to learn that. In Australia, we don't even have free speech. So
Mm.
don't even give me that crap about you're ruining my free speech. Well, we don't even have that here. So
We have something almost like it under the Human Rights Act that we have here in Queensland, but not
freedom of
to the
expression.
yeah, but not to the same point that they have it enshrined in America, for example. So
Mm.
yes, it does not give you the right to go out and tell trans people that they can't use a bathroom because they can. Yeah. Before we wrap up, did we want to talk about what our favorite banned book is?
Oh, I've got a whole list on the Stephen King banned books.
I wouldn't know it was banned.
Um, Hmm.
Think of something other than Stephen King, Julie.
No. I
Um,
will when you think
No.
about things other than Good
what
Omens.
about Richard
No.
Richard Bachman?
Richard Bachman's
Does he
banned
have
book
any good books?
Rage. Rage was banned. That was a Richard Bachman book. I tell you what's an interesting book that was banned is, well, first of all, To Kill a Mockingbird is probably my absolute favorite on the banned book
Mm.
list. Brilliantly written and expresses the stupidity of racism in such a way that I don't think anyone's been able to do since. And really, that's what the book is about, the stupidity of racism, because because Scout doesn't care and Jem doesn't care. So that one, Lolita, is a very interesting banned book.
Mm. J.K. Rowling's favorite book, apparently.
Lolita, mm,
Yeah, apparently it's the
that's
greatest love story romance she's ever read.
if you come away from that novel thinking, geez, that was a great love story, then you've got issues.
She is a
Um,
strange woman.
the whole point of the book is the unreliable narration of Humbert Humbert, and that this is not a love story at all. And it's an interesting read. It's a tough read, and that was banned for a very long time.
Mm.
But please don't come away thinking it's a love story. I worry about any person that does. But no, To Kill a Mockingbird is probably my favorite book on the banned list.
Excellent. Brayton, what's your favorite one?
1984.
Oh,
I'm
I
not surprised.
I listened to the audiobook narrated by Stephen Fry.
oh, good
It
choice.
was it was it was good. That was the first time I'd ever quote unquote read it, and
Mm.
it was very good.
I do like 1984. I've read it myself. I've prepared mine earlier. I'll hold it up for those
Oh yeah,
again
forgot about that.
watching on YouTube and Brayton to create reels. Mouse by Art Spiegelman.
Oh,
This is
Mouse
a
is brilliant.
fantastic graphic novel, and it is about Art's father's like time as a Jewish survivor of the Holocaust,
Yeah, he was
essentially.
actually at Auschwitz
Yes,
and
survived
survived.
Auschwitz,
Yeah.
as did his mum. There's a part in the book. Oh, I'm probably spoiling it, but when it gets to the part in the book when Art realizes his mother had a diary, because spoilers, she unfortunately committed suicide quite early on
Mm.
in Art's life. And him trying to talk to his father was trying to get a sense about why his mother did that. And he halfway through the book, he finds out that Art's dad burnt all of his wife's journals. So Art will never know what it was that his mother actually was thinking and went through and her reasonings behind what she did. I mean, obviously, you're not really going to find out a reason about why someone commits suicide specifically from their journal, maybe because they might not write about it, and they obviously certainly can't write about it after the fact. But it's a very powerful book, obviously. And for those of you who don't understand what's so unique about it, and it's called Mouse. It's written M-A-U-S, which is the German for mouse. It's pronounced mouse. Um, and it's because all of the Jewish people are depicted as mice. All of the Germans are depicted as cats, and other nationalities are different animals as well. So I can't remember if Americans were dogs. I
Yeah,
can't.
they are.
Americans were dogs? Yeah.
Americans died.
Uh,
The French were frogs.
French frogs. And I think there's rabbits in there for a different nationality as well, but I can't
The
remember which one.
British? What were the
Yes.
British?
Possibly rabbits. I
Maybe.
can't recall. It is a harrowing book. Um, and I think it's not as harrowing as it could be because of the way that they've structured it with the animal characters. So it takes away that reality from it slightly. I think so that it is palatable so that you can get through it because otherwise it is a like trigger warning, it is a very traumatic book to read, but it is so important to read.
I think
We're getting
isn't
further
it the
and further
only
away. Sorry.
isn't it the only graphic novel that's won a Pulitzer Prize?
Possibly. It says it right on the cover, winner of the Pulitzer
Yeah,
Prize.
I
So
think it's the only graphic novel that's ever won.
yes. we are getting further and further away from the Holocaust, obviously, to the point where in a very sh few short years, we are going to have no more people who were there who will be able to tell us that it happened and what happened. And these types of books are so important to keep so that we can tell future generations this is what happened, don't let it happen again, because we are careening towards the possibility of things happening again, and it keeps me awake at night. So please read the book. Um, you know, you can get it from any bookstore. I got it from Dimmicks. But again, it was on the banned book list at one point, obviously because of the content. I think it was banned somewhere recently, which was what prompted me to go and get it. Again, it might have been Florida. It was somewhere in America that banned it purely because they claimed, oh, there are naked people in it. It's like, yes, okay. There is literally one page or maybe two pages in Auschwitz where the mice, the male mice are naked and you see genitalia, basically. It's like, okay, first of all, just like, really? Do we have to explain why that's dumb to be offended by that, people? Get over it.
Maybe they were jealous of the size of the mouse's genitalia.
Maybe. So I think that was actually literally what prompted. Like I heard, oh, this book is banned right now. Off I go to the bookstore and I bought it and it was $60 and I didn't care. So challenge for everyone. The second you hear a book is being banned anywhere, go out and get it. Go and get that book, unless it's an anti-trans book, in which case don't buy that.
That's it. It's got power now that it's banned.
Go steal it. Steal it from the bookstore and then hide it away so no one can read it.
And just remember, if you are uncomfortable with a book, ask yourself why. And there are good reasons to be uncomfortable with novels. Some novels should make you uncomfortable, but ask yourself why you're uncomfortable. Maybe you'll learn more about yourself than you would have if you just screamed, ban it, ban it.
When I was in New York recently, I went to the Strand bookstore. I think I mentioned that the last time, and it had a banned book table where it was filled with books that have been banned at one point or another. So that's great. I wish more bookstores did that, actually. That would be fantastic. Yeah, have a banned book table filled with all of the books where, ooh, secret knowledge. Come and find our secret knowledge here on our banned book table.
Here in Australia, we are lucky, though. We don't tend to ban books as much. I think, like you said earlier, we don't care enough.
We're a very apathetic people, aren't we?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
How's
if there's something out there that bothers me, I'm just not going to worry about it because it's like, I can't. It's too hot to get angry about a book.
Oh my God, it's so hot right now.
It's so hot. Oh my God. It's so hot in here.
So we are quite lucky in that respect.
Yes.
So yay.
Yay, go Australia.
And if you can't find a book at your local bookstore, go see if you can find it at the library. And if your library doesn't have it, then ask your library to buy it. You can do that, you know.
Definitely support libraries. They're great. They're amazing. I love the library.
Yes, there's a form that you can fill out at the library to say, you don't have this book, please buy it. And they'll do it.
I should do that with my book.
Yeah. Ooh, I'll do it for you. Yeah.
Can you just donate your book? Like walk in and say, here's my book. Can you put it on the shelf?
Just put it on the shelf, like and then stand there and go, oh wow, this book looks really interesting.
Yeah, this was the best book I've ever read.
They'd probably look at it and go, what the fuck am I going to do with it?
Just like slide it over the table for them, like a $5 note or something. All right. Any last thoughts?
I was going to say, before we wrap up, would you like a entry from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows to finish off a very heavy episode?
Always.
All right, I found a good one to finish off tonight. This is a hanker sore.
Hanker sore. Oh, is it your stomach is sore because you're really hungry and you're getting really angry about how sore your stomach is.
That's just hangry.
Oh, okay.
That's
There's
just
already
me.
there's a word for that already. Okay.
Is it when you're feeling like you so badly want something that it aches?
Kind of. You're on the right track there.
Ooh, hankering for something and it's destroying your soul.
That's literally it. Part of that is
Me
hanker,
me
to
with
pine
chips.
for something.
Oh, so much in my Good Omens fan fiction does that to me all the time.
I think you're going to definitely feel this one, Eloise.
Uh-huh.
So a hanker sore is an adjective. Finding a person so attractive it actually kind of pisses you off.
Ah, yeah. Sorry, Eloise, I didn't mean to be that attractive.
Oh, damn it, Julian.
Actually, there was a guy like that in high school. He was so damned attractive that it just pissed me off.
Actually, I have to. Who? Tell me afterwards who that was. I have that with what's her name? Orlando Bloom's first wife. What was her name? The Australian
Miranda Kerr.
Miranda Kerr.
Mm.
Miranda Kerr does that to me. She's
Yep.
so damn attractive. She got Orlando Bloom.
How dare she
Damn.
exist?
She lived in Brisbane. God damn it. Sorry if Miranda's out there listening to us.
I'm sure she's a big fan.
Then you divorced him? Why did you divorce him?
I always think now I think of season 1 of Cobra Kai, where Johnny and Daniel look at Ali's husband on Facebook and like, look at that dumb face. What a loser. And he's a very attractive man.
Yes, that's right. Brilliant word. Thank you very much, Brayden.
All good.
All right. If anyone would like to get in touch with us, you can email us at nothelpfulpod@gmail.com. You can still get in touch with us on the socials, though we're not really checking Facebook anymore because screw you, Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not really on them or Instagram much anymore.
Yeah,
Having
sorry
said
about
that, the amount of people talking about, all the illegal things he does and that he's a horrible child rapist and what have you, because no one's fact checking these things anymore. So
Yeah.
clearly it's true.
That's really
So
funny.
He is copying it a fair bit for that.
Fuck around and find out, and he
Yep.
found out.
Yeah,
And
but I will
he's
say,
crying himself to sleep with his billions of dollars.
Yeah, dabbing his eyes with $100 notes.
Why don't they like me anymore?
Why don't I have any friends? Anyway.
yeah,
Oh, he's got friends. He's got Musk and Bezos.
Ugh. God.
What a trio.
Menopause in a poster. Sorry.
it's all good. Yeah, most of our socials are now just over on Bluesky, which is a very nice community.
Yes.
So far.
So follow us. Follow us on
Yeah,
Bluesky.
get
What's our
on
handle?
Bluesky.
What's our handle on Bluesky?
It's just
Is it
if you
called a
just
handle over there?
I believe
don't
it
know
is.
anymore.
It's in the show notes, but if you just search We're Not Helpful Podcast, we should pop up.
Excellent. Anyway, so don't forget to like and subscribe us on all of the platforms that you listen to podcasts on. And that's pretty much it. I always start off really well and then I just peter off.
Story of your life.
That's what she said.
It's the title of your sex tape. There we go. Done the full trifecta. All right. Well, unless there was anything else to say, thank you very much for tuning in and listening to a very heavy topic this week. We promise it'll be something lighter the next time you tune in.
I promise nothing.
You never do.
And yet you
Except
still never deliver.
Except to
I
sell
never
yourself
promised
to
it.
advertisers.
Oh, yes, that I do promise.
Yeah.
Once
Please.
again, if you'd like to advertise with us, Julian will do anything.
Yep. And please write me an acrostic poem.
Oh, yes. Don't forget, write in with those acrostic poems, people. Try and win our hearts and our pants.
With an
All right.
That's
acrostic
not what I
poem.
said to start the show, Eloise. I didn't say anything about winning my heart.
Okay, sure. Until next time, bye everyone.
Bye.